Wow, guys, it just keeps getting better and better and better. Yeah, that's right. You probably didn't think it could get much better after what we learned about Geno Smith's contract a couple days ago. I think it did. I think it did. We recently, just actually a little bit ago, my time, got some details around the Geno Smith incentives. So just to remind everybody, Geno Smith's contract, the base value is 3 years, 75 million, so 25 million a year, but there is the possibility of that contract going up to 3 years, 105 million in incentives. Basically, if he does certain things, reaches certain milestones, achieves certain goals, he can earn extra money. So it can go up to $35 million a year. Now, I maintain both outcomes are perfectly acceptable here, but here's the new wrinkle per Brad Spielberger of PFF. He has some of the details around the Geno Smith incentives. So let's go through it in a few different stages here because there are a few different elements at play here that make this, in my opinion, even better. Seahawks QB Geno Smith's incentives are tied to his 2022 stats in 5 categories. So basically, what this means is that if Geno Smith equals his performance from last year, this year, he will get incentives. Specifically, he will get 2 million per incentive reached for these particular numbers. 4,282 yards. If he gets there or higher, $2 million extra. 30 touchdowns, $2 million extra. 69.755% completion percentage, $2 million extra. Passer rating of 100.874, $2 million extra. 80% playtime and 10 wins or making the playoffs, another $2 million extra. So basically, these are all incentives that Geno Smith would have hit in 2022. However, here's the fun part. They don't affect the 2023 cap at all. And I'll explain why in a moment. Now, first of all, if you're looking at these numbers wondering where the heck did these numbers come from, or maybe you're looking at these numbers thinking, man, that sounds familiar, it's because they're exactly what he had in 2022. 4,282 yards, 69.8 completion percentage, 100.9 QB rating, 30 touchdowns, playoffs, played over 80% of the snaps. So if you're looking at those numbers and you're like, why do those numbers look so familiar? This is why. They're literally the numbers he had in 2022. But here is the interesting kicker to all this. So normally, all of these incentives would be part of the cap, right? Because he reached all these incentives the previous year. According to Brad Spielberger, by the way, and by the way, I haven't seen Brady Henderson chime in on this yet, so it's not 100% official until Brady Henderson says so, in my experience, but this seems reasonable to me, and you got to jump on stuff when it comes out, right? You can't wait several days for 800 different sources to approve of it, right? I mean, this guy works for PFF. There's pretty good incentive for him to not make stuff up. The upside comes via roster bonus escalators in 2024 and 2025. If Smith hits or exceeds the incentives laid out in the tweet, these incentives here, he boosts the value of his 2024 roster bonus. So maximum of 15 million escalation in 2024 and 2025 based on 2023 and 2024 performance. Because, by the way, forgot to mention this initially, there's an additional $5 million bonus if he hits all 5 benchmarks. If he does all 5 of these things, he gets 10 million plus 5 million for 15 million. And that escalator comes in the form of a roster bonus for the following year. What does this mean? Well, it does mean that the cap hit could balloon up in 2024, 2025, but only if Geno earns it. But right now, the significant part is there will be no additional charge in 2023. So we don't know exactly what the cap hit is yet. I haven't seen it yet. I'm still waiting for confirmation there. But whatever that cap hit is, it will not be influenced or affected in any way, shape, or form based off incentives. Because remember that thing I said in the previous Geno video. Incentives are part of the cap hit if they're deemed likely to be hit, and they're not part of the cap hit if they're not. This is completely different. There's no way it's going to be part of the cap. It'll be part of next year's roster bonus either way. It's technically not even an incentive as much as it is an escalator. So it's a little bit different. And yes, it does mean that future cap hits could balloon up, but only if he earns them. If he doesn't earn them, the cap hits stay very minimal. So that's what I mean when I say it just keeps getting better and better. This contract, which again, we still need to see the exact cap hit nature, it's kind of amazing that Geno agreed to this. A lot of people in my comments have been saying lately, Russell Wilson never did this. Nobody really does this. Look, maybe there's some very, very tiny chance that other teams in the NFL didn't view Geno Smith as being good, but I seriously doubt it. Everyone keeps saying, oh, Geno's only had one good year. Daniel Jones hasn't had any good years. Some of these quarterbacks getting paid right now, they've had their good years way in the past. Like Derek Carr was way better in the old days before he broke his leg. He hasn't been the same since, really. So Derek Carr got paid a bunch of money, and he wasn't nearly as good as Geno was last year. When was the last time Derek Carr had a genuinely really good year? It's been a minute. So I don't know why Geno Smith would agree to this, but what I'm going to say is this. We got to take advantage of it. This cap hit that we're going to have in 2023 should be pretty minimal. If it's not, it's because we chose to not heavily backload the contract, which, I mean, that would be weird. I don't know why we would choose to do that, but it would also have a positive impact on future cap hits anyway. So one way or the other, this guy's saving us money, and he didn't need to. I don't think he did. You can't tell me that some team out there like Washington, like, well, if Tampa Bay had money, maybe them. The New York Jets, if they can't get Rodgers. The Raiders, the Panthers. Somebody out there would have said, you know what? We need a quarterback. Yes, Geno Smith's record is not perfect. Yes, there are problems, but it's either him or Sam Darnold or Sam Howell or Zach Wilson or Marcus Mariota. Yeah, Geno Smith's more appetizing than those guys. He just is. So I don't know what possessed him to do it, but he believes in himself, and he's betting on himself, and it's awesome. And I think this contract just keeps getting better. The only information we really need now is the exact nature of the cap hits, and also the nature of his bonuses. When do they kick in? If he doesn't play well in 2023, is there an easy out after the first year? What is the out going to look like after 2 years? What does the third year look like if he ends up playing well enough to potentially stick around? We need to know these things. But we now know that the incentives are not really incentives. The incentives are escalators that apply to a roster bonus. And by the way, in order to get a roster bonus, you have to be on the roster. So this opens up a distinct possibility that there's an easy out after 1 year if the escalators are part of a roster bonus. We'll have to see. I don't know about that. But honestly, if he achieves these escalators or incentives or whatever you want to call them, you probably want to keep him around because he's probably playing really well, right? Unless he's doing like the Jameis Winston thing where he's throwing for 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 30 interceptions. So I don't see how this works out badly for us. And I'm going to say it again. To those of you who have been down on Geno Smith ever since we re-signed him, it's time to get past it. Look at what he's doing for us, man. Look at what he's doing for us. All right. Stream with the Hawks Nest later tonight. See you guys later. Let me know what you think. Go Hawks.